Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz Interview Series with Caribbean-born, New York City-based saxophone colossus Jacques Schwarz-Bart. He talked about his long-anticipated 2023 album called The Harlem Suite, out on March 31st, 2023 via Rope-A-Dope Records. On his 11th album as a leader, it showcases a harvest of tunes and arrangements that he wrote to celebrate each step into his perilous but rewarding journey from his native island of Guadeloupe to the heart of the modern black music, Harlem, where he lived for 18 years. He has been at the center of several music revolutions over his time. He gets into all of this and so much more. Enjoy this interview.
Thank you for this conversation this morning. I'm so glad we can make this happen.
Absolutely, man. Hey, it's great to meet you. And, before we get into talking about the Harlem Suite and your life in jazz, COVID did quite a thing to the world of jazz and the musicians. And I'm curious how you survived that time period and how relieving it is to have an album coming out now that the world's waking up.
I come from two, I should say, lineages of survivors of historical tragedies, on the black side and on the Jewish side. So the people who preceded me survived things that are much worse than that pandemic. So I always put things in perspective, put hope into the ability that we have as humans to overcome. And so I never stopped creating. I never stopped working on my skills, composing, and actually I knew that it's important to actually draw inspiration from affliction.
With the world opening up and the Harlem Suite coming out, talk to me a little bit about, the joy this has to be for there to be live music and kind of how you put this album together.
This album is the result of over 2 decades of writing about Harlem. And it's in hindsight that I realized at some point that it was a recurrent theme behind a number of my compositions, and it was naturally forming a suite. And I think the most meaningful projects are those which contain an inherent meaning as opposed to those who are creating after you decide of a theme. This just reflects a part of my life over several decades. So that's why there is a natural cohesion, a natural story that comes out of it. I was lucky to get a Live Arts Boston grant during the pandemic, precisely. This is one of the things that I did during the pandemic is finally apply for grants, which I never had time to do previously. That allowed me to really assess how important it was for me to focus on those tunes that I had written over the years, And it just turns out that also at the beginning of the pandemic, I have created a class at Berkeley, an ensemble that is called the Harlem Suite, where I started performing those tunes with my students. It really was, it all came together in almost perfect synchronicity.
So the world knows you as the Caribbean saxophone colossus, and I'm curious, how did this journey in jazz begin for you, kind of where you were born and raised, and how these seeds of both jazz and music got into your bloodstream?
My parents had 4 jazz records, jazz vinyls. Among those was Mingus Aham, and in that record, you have a sort of syncretism of all the great styles and genres of black music. You have jazz, you have gospel, you have elements of Caribbean rhythms, through Haitian rhythms, and you have blues. You have even sequence in bird calls, where the entire band is imitating the sounds of nature, and all this integrated in a wonderful ballet, from this idea of a jazz that basically is embracing the world. I knew that someday, if I was lucky enough to be able to become a jazz musician, I would try to do something of the sort. At first, since I was a good student, I was following the path of a good student in France. I graduated from high school at 16 and then went straight into law school. When I graduated from law school at 20, my professors were kind of directing me towards the special schools, the Ivy League schools in France. One of them is called Sciences Po, and it leads to a career in politics and diplomacy and so on. And that's what I did. But deep down inside, I knew that I needed to express myself as a creator of some sort, either a writer or a musician. And I was lucky enough to find the saxophone on my path, and that erased all other plans that I had at the time very quickly. It's almost kind of a chemical instant reaction that happened because after I graduated from the School of Government in Paris, I went back to Guadeloupe to spend a vacation, and a friend of mine had a saxophone in her room, and I was like, can you put it together so that I can try it? After blowing that tenor saxophone for about half an hour, I was able to play some themes and try to remember some of the lines from my favorite jazz records. And everybody in the next room started mocking me, saying, why did you lie to us, saying that you never played saxophone in your life? Stop the bullshit and tell us if you can play a gig tomorrow. So the day after I encountered the tenor saxophone, I started gigging 3 to 5 times a week this whole summer.
That's wonderful.
And that's, long story short, jazz just took over, and the saxophone took over my life when I was 24, and 3 years later, I left for Berkeley.
This album is your 11th. It's always been a dream of yours since coming here to New York. And I'm curious, in your life, there's different, as a professional musician, you have recordings, you have live shows, education, there's all these aspects that go into it. But every day you wake up as a musician, what do you look forward to the most? What is it about this process of being a musician that you love so much?
It's discovery, to be able to do something today that I wasn't able to do yesterday, or that I didn't even think of doing yesterday. And if you embrace the unknown and the mystery of that path of creation that's ours, as musicians, you open yourself to those moments where you just marvel at the process itself, So that's what I'm looking towards. That's what I'm looking for the most when I wake up in the morning. Is that moment where I'm going to find that flow, where ideas are going to kind of come into existence out of nowhere, like quantum particles that pop out of nothingness, you know?
You know, this is a much anticipated album for you. I'm curious, what are you hoping the listeners get from listening to this album?
Well, as we found out, I came to New York as an outsider without really expecting anything. Those moments of unexpected connections and unexpected accomplishments that were enhanced by almost a childlike outlook on this world of music. And I hope that the listeners not only will connect to my sense of awe traveling this path of music, but also will connect to their own childlike outlook on life as it's given to us every day.
So let me ask you this. If you were to come to Kansas City to perform this album live and you had to sell this show and kind of briefly explain what your show would be like to get people to come to watch you play, how would you explain that?
I would tell them that my music is conceived to address the human condition in all its dimension, body, soul, and mind, and it's conceived to give the audience an exciting experience of what it is to be a human being in 3 dimensions.
Have you ever seen Sonny Rollins live?
Yes, I have.
What was that like? How transformative was it to see him? And I mean, you have kind of the moniker of the Caribbean Saxophone Colossus. What was that experience like?
You know, first of all, as you mentioned, he, just like me, he's a Caribbean saxophone player. So there are a lot of aspects of what Sonny does that I identify as coming from the Caribbeans. You know, so many aspects of his phrasing, the way he bends certain notes, the way he places his vibrato, his ability to create syncopations or even bend rhythms in all directions. So it's really part of this Afro-Caribbean culture that I can precisely identify with. So that is very validating, especially because so many of our Caribbean jazz heroes are not spoken of as being Caribbean players. You know, people don't talk about Sonny Rollins as being from St. Thomas, even though he wrote St. Thomas. People don't talk about Monk as being from Jamaica, or Wynton Kelly as being from Jamaica. You know, Horace Silver is or Tony Williams. You know, people don't talk about those cats for their Cape Verdean origins. You know, and yet they have shaped jazz in so many ways. But you know, they are under the category of great American jazz players, or the creator of jazz himself, Jelly Roll Morton, was actually from Haitian origin, and a lot of what he created bears the mark of traditional folk music from Haiti, or even deeper, voodoo ritual music from Haiti. Listening to to giants such like Sonny Rollins, who plays the same instrument, is an extraordinarily validating experience, and it's akin to seeing somebody bend the space-time continuum, if you will. You know, basically just change the laws of nature somehow. It is transformative.
So let's get to the essence of you. Everyone out there has an idea of who they think you are, your family, your friends, your fans, but you're the one living your life. Who do you think you are? What's your perception of you?
I'm still that child who is discovering life and pursuing music through it. You know, there is a quote by Neil deGrasse Tyson that I relate to entirely. He says that so many people are looking for meaning as if it was extraneous to them. And he says, you know, I don't look for meaning. I create my own meaning. And that's what I feel that I'm engaged in. I'm engaged in creating meaning in my life.
I love that answer. So if anyone out there wants to pick up the Harlem Suite, find out about any live shows, anything about you and your previous albums, where's the best place for them to go?
BrotherJacques.com, www.brothersjacques.com.
Wonderful. Hey, man, this has been great. Thank you for opening up. I really enjoyed this. You were so good and deep about everything that you answered, and I really appreciate you opening up and talking about the new album and your life in music.
Well, it was my pleasure. I hope we'll have other opportunities, and also that I can bring my band to Kansas so that we can have a beer together.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in Guadalupe, New York City, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Jacques for his time, music, and energy. Find more archived Neon Jazz interviews on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or subscribe to us at YouTube. For all things Neon Jazz, visit theneonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.